Did you know the U.S. is spending $405 million every single day on SNAP? But a big chunk of that money is going towards sugary foods, the kind that are making kids obese and diabetic. Now the government's saying taxpayers shouldn't be footing the bill for junk food. States like West Virginia are stepping up, banning soda from SNAP and adding new work requirements for both SNAP and Medicaid. And here's the shocker, both Republicans and Democrats are backing this. So the question is this a smart health move or a war on low-income families? All right, let's start with the basics. What exactly did this executive order do? Well, President Trump signed an order that brings back work requirements for SNAP benefits. But that's not all. The order also restricts what you can buy with food stamps. We're talking about limiting junk food, sugary drinks, and processed snacks. Now, I know some of you might be thinking, wait, didn't we have these rules before? And you're absolutely right. These aren't completely new ideas. Work requirements existed in the past, and there have always been some restrictions on SNAP purchases. But here's what's different this time. The new rules are stricter and more comprehensive than what we've seen in recent years. Let me break down the two main changes for you. First, the work requirements. Adults between 18 and 49 who don't have children will need to work at least 20 hours per week to keep their SNAP benefits. Or they'll need to be in a job training program for 20 hours per week. This affects roughly 2.8 million people across the country. That's a lot of families who might need to find work or training programs to keep their food assistance. Second, the food restrictions. The new rules will limit what you can buy with SNAP benefits. You won't be able to use food stamps to buy candy, soda, energy drinks, or many processed snacks. The goal, according to the administration, is to encourage healthier eating habits. Now, I want to be clear about something. These changes aren't happening overnight. The Department of Agriculture has 90 days to figure out how to implement these new rules. That means we're looking at sometime in late April or early May before you see these changes at the grocery store. But here's where it gets interesting. States will have some flexibility in how they apply these rules. Some states might get waivers for certain areas where jobs are harder to find. Others might create their own job training programs to help people meet the work requirements. Let me share some numbers that really put this in perspective. Right now, about 41 million Americans receive SNAP benefits. That's roughly 1 in 8 people in our country. The average monthly benefit is about $234 per person. Of those 41 million people, about 2.8 million are adults without children who could be affected by the new work requirements. Most of these folks live in urban areas, and about 44% are women. Here's something that might surprise you. According to government data, about 76% of SNAP households include a child, an elderly person, or someone with a disability. So the majority of people receiving food stamps won't be affected by the work requirements at all. But the food restrictions? That affects everyone who uses SNAP benefits. The USDA estimates that SNAP recipients spend about $2.1 billion per year on sugary drinks alone. That's roughly 5% of all SNAP spending. When you add in candy, chips, and other processed snacks, we're talking about billions of dollars in purchases that could be restricted under the new rules. Now, I've been reading reports from nutrition experts, and they're divided on whether these restrictions will actually improve health outcomes. Some say limiting junk food will encourage better eating habits. Others argue that it takes away choice and dignity from people who are already struggling financially. Dr. Sarah Johnson from the American Nutrition Association told reporters, "While we support healthier eating, we also know that fresh fruits and vegetables are often more expensive and less accessible in low-income neighborhoods." That's a really important point. If you're going to restrict junk food, you also need to make sure healthy food is affordable and available. Let me walk you through how these changes might affect different groups of people. For college students, many college students rely on SNAP benefits, especially those who are working part-time or going to school full-time. Under the new rules, students will need to work 20 hours per week to keep their benefits. This could be challenging for students with heavy course loads. For people in rural areas, finding 20 hours of work per week can be really tough in rural communities where job opportunities are limited. These areas might be able to get waivers from the work requirements, but that's not guaranteed. For people with health issues, if you have a health condition that makes it hard to work, you might qualify for an exemption from the work requirements. But you'll need documentation from a doctor, and the approval process could take time. For families with children, good news here. If you have kids under 18 living in your household, you won't be subject to the work requirements at all. But you will still face the new food restrictions. For seniors, people over 50 are exempt from the work requirements. But again, the food restrictions will still apply when you're shopping. Now, I want to hear from you in the comments below. Do you think these new rules will help people eat healthier and find work? Or do you think they're too restrictive for people who are already struggling? I know this is a topic where people have strong opinions on both sides. Some folks believe that government assistance should come with requirements and restrictions. Others feel that people should have the freedom to make their own choices about food and work. Whatever your opinion, I want to hear it. Share your thoughts respectfully in the comments, and let's have a real conversation about this. Because at the end of the day, we're all neighbors, and we all want what's best for our communities. Okay, so what can you do right now to prepare for these changes? Let me give you some practical steps. If you're affected by the work requirements, start looking for job opportunities now. Don't wait until the rules go into effect. Check with your local workforce development office. Many states offer job training programs that could help you meet the 20-hour requirement while learning new skills. Also, look into community colleges and vocational schools. Some job training programs might qualify under the new rules, and they could help you build skills for better employment down the road. If you're concerned about the food restrictions, start transitioning your shopping habits now. Focus on buying more fresh fruits, vegetables, whole grains, and lean proteins. These items will definitely still be covered under SNAP. Learn to cook simple, healthy meals at home. There are tons of free resources online, including YouTube channels dedicated to cooking on a budget. Cooking at home is almost always cheaper and healthier than buying processed foods. Consider visiting food banks and community pantries in your area. These resources can supplement your SNAP benefits and often have fresh produce available. For everyone receiving SNAP benefits, stay informed about what's happening in your state. Each state will implement these rules differently, so what applies in Texas might be different from what happens in California. Contact your local SNAP office if you have questions about your specific situation. The caseworkers there will have the most up-to-date information about how these changes affect you personally. Keep all your documentation organized. If you need to prove that you're working, in training, or have a health condition that exempts you from work requirements, you'll want to have those papers ready. Over the next few months, we're going to see a lot more details about how these rules will actually work. The USDA is currently writing the specific regulations, and they'll need to coordinate with all 50 states. I'll be following this story closely and will update you as soon as we have more concrete information. Make sure you're subscribed with notifications turned on so you don't miss those updates. There's also likely to be legal challenges to these new rules. Advocacy groups are already talking about filing lawsuits, so the timeline for implementation could change depending on what happens in court. I know many of you have questions and concerns about these changes, so let me address some of the most common ones I've been seeing. This is a real concern, especially in areas where full-time jobs are scarce. Remember that job training programs can count toward the 20-hour requirement. Also, your state might be able to get a waiver if unemployment is high in your area. The USDA is still working out the specific details, but based on similar programs in the past, we're likely looking at restrictions on candy, soda, energy drinks, chips, and heavily processed snacks. Basic ingredients for cooking, like flour, sugar, and oil, will probably still be allowed. That's a complicated question. While fewer people might receive benefits, the administrative costs of implementing and monitoring these new rules could be significant. We'll have to wait and see what the actual financial impact turns out to be. The rules will likely require an average of 20 hours per week over a certain period, probably a month. So if you work 25 hours one week and 15 hours the next, that might still qualify. But we're waiting for the final details on this. All right, friends, that's what we know so far about these new SNAP rules. I know it's a lot to take in, and I know some of you might be feeling worried or uncertain about what this means for you and your family. Here's what I want you to remember. Change is never easy, but you're not alone in this. There are resources available to help you navigate these new requirements, whether that's finding work, learning new job skills, or adjusting your shopping habits. The most important thing you can do right now is stay informed and start preparing early. Don't wait until these rules go into effect to think about how they might impact you. If this video was helpful to you, please give it a thumbs up. It really helps other people find this information when they need it. And if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you'll know as soon as I post updates about this story. I'm planning to do a follow-up video in a few weeks once we have more details from the USDA about exactly how these rules will work. I'll also be covering resources for job training and healthy eating on a budget, so stay tuned for those. In the comments below, let me know what other topics you'd like me to cover related to this story. Are you interested in learning about job training programs, healthy meal planning on a budget, how to appeal SNAP decisions? I read every comment, and your suggestions help me decide what videos to make next. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Take care of yourselves, and remember, we're all in this together.